The day Thandi saved her village from drought, no one called her broken anymore, but it took a lifetime of silence for them to finally hear her speak. The dust swirled around young Thandi's feet as she walked, the sun-baked earth of the Karoo stretching endlessly before her. Even at a tender age, there was a quiet intensity in her eyes, a wisdom that seemed to predate her years. She was known in her small Xhosa village not for boisterous laughter or playful mischief, but for her profound silences. While other children chased goats and mimicked their elders, Thandi would sit for hours under the vast African sky, her gaze fixed on the horizon, as if searching for something only she could see. She wasn't shy, not exactly. It was more as if the world moved at a different rhythm for her, a slower, deeper beat. Her grandmother, the wise Gogo who told tales by firelight, would say, "Thandi listens to the ancestors, child. Her spirit is old." But as Thandi grew, her uniqueness began to sow seeds of unease. Her mother, Nomusa, a woman of vibrant song and dance, tried to draw her out. "Come, my flower, share your thoughts. What treasures lie hidden in your heart?" But Thandi would only offer a small, enigmatic smile, her dark eyes brimming with unspoken stories. The villagers, ever observant, started to whisper. "She's different," they'd murmur, their voices laced with a mixture of concern and mild suspicion. In a community built on shared experience and communal expression, Thandi's profound inwardness was a puzzle, almost a challenge. The real conflict began when it was time for Thandi to learn the women's dances, to join in the joyous rhythmic celebrations that punctuated their lives. While others moved with effortless grace, their bodies swaying like reeds in the wind, Thandi stood stiffly, her movements hesitant, her gaze detached. The vibrant colors of her Xhosa attire felt heavy on her, the drum beats a chaotic jumble rather than an invitation to release. "She has no rhythm," scoffed a village elder, her words a sharp sting. "Her spirit is out of tune with the earth." Thandi felt a crushing weight in her chest. She desperately wanted to connect, to belong. But there was an invisible barrier between her and the world. It was as if she perceived emotions, sounds, and movements with an intensity that overwhelmed her, making it impossible to respond normally. The vibrant patterns of their traditional blankets, the intricate beadwork, the lively chatter, all of it was a beautiful, yet deafening, commotion to her sensitive soul. One scorching afternoon, a stranger arrived in the village, a young man from a distant land, a scholar who carried a bag full of strange instruments and even stranger ideas. He observed Thandi not with judgment, but with curiosity. He spoke of neurodiversity and different ways of experiencing the world, words the villagers had never heard. He showed her a small, intricately carved wooden bird. "Sometimes," he said gently, "the most beautiful songs are sung by those who sing differently." He encouraged Thandi to express herself in her own way, without pressure. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a shift occurred. Thandi began to draw, using charcoal on smooth stones, depicting the world as she saw it, not in broad strokes, but in intricate, mesmerizing details. The precise pattern of a spider's web glistening with dew, the delicate veins on a desert leaf, the nuanced expressions on the faces of her community. Her drawings were not just images, they were windows into a profoundly sensitive soul. The villagers, at first hesitant, found themselves captivated by the depth and beauty of her art. They saw the world through Thandi's eyes, and it was a world richer, more textured, and more profound than they had ever imagined. Her disorder was not a lack, but a different kind of sight. Her art became her language, a powerful song without words. Through her unique perspective, Thandi didn't just participate in her community. She enriched it, revealing the hidden beauty in the mundane. The question wasn't what was wrong with Thandi, but rather, what extraordinary insights had they been missing by not understanding her unique way of being? Does true connection always demand conformity, or can it flourish in the embrace of difference? And what precious gifts might we overlook if we are too quick to label and dismiss those who walk a path less traveled? The scholar, whose name was Dr. Eris Thorne, became Thandi's quiet advocate. He explained that Thandi's mind processed information with an extraordinary level of detail and intensity, a trait that could be overwhelming in a world designed for broader strokes. He spoke of famous artists and thinkers throughout history who had similar, different ways of experiencing the world. The villagers, initially skeptical, began to listen, their respect for Gogo's wisdom about old spirits merging with Dr. Thorne's modern understanding. One evening, a fierce drought gripped the Karoo, and the life-giving river, usually a torrent, dwindled to a trickle. Panic rippled through the village. The traditional rain dances, usually so potent, yielded no clouds. The livestock grew weak, and the crops withered. Despair settled over the community, like the relentless dust. Thandi, however, remained outwardly calm. She spent hours by the parched riverbed, not just looking, but seeing. She noticed the subtle shifts in the exposed rock, the almost invisible cracks, the direction of the wind carrying the scent of dry earth. She drew relentlessly, filling countless stones with intricate maps of the riverbed, patterns of the wind, and the faint traces of ancient water flow. Dr. Thorne, observing her, recognized a pattern emerging in her art. He saw not just drawings, but a detailed geological survey, a sensory log of the land's deepest secrets. He helped Thandi translate her observations into a language the elders could understand. She pointed to a specific spot, a barely noticeable depression in the cracked earth, marked by a unique configuration of stones in her drawing. "The water goes here." She communicated through gestures and a few softly spoken words, her eyes burning with conviction. "Deep under." The elders, desperate, decided to trust her. They organized the digging, a communal effort fueled by dwindling hope. Day after day, under the scorching sun, they dug. Many doubted, their arms aching, their spirits flagging. But Thandi remained, a silent sentinel, her gaze fixed on the earth, occasionally adjusting a detail on her stone maps, a subtle nod, a quiet confirmation that they were on the right path. Then, on the 7th day, as the sun began its descent, a gasp went through the weary workers. A dark, damp patch appeared. Moments later, a slow, clear trickle of water began to seep from the earth, growing steadily into a flow. The villagers erupted in shouts of joy, tears streaming down their dust-caked faces. Thandi had found them in the water. From that day forward, Thandi was no longer different in a way that caused unease. She was revered. Her profound silences were now understood as deep concentration, her detachment as intense observation. Her art, once seen as a peculiar pastime, became an indispensable tool, helping the community predict weather patterns, track game, and even identify medicinal plants through her intricately detailed depictions. Thandi never spoke much more, never joined the raucous dances with abandon, but her presence resonated with a new, profound respect. She communicated through her art, through the quiet strength of her gaze, and through the invaluable contributions that only her unique perspective could offer. The village learned that true wisdom wasn't always loud or conventional. Sometimes the most vital truths were whispered by those who perceived the world in a rare and beautiful way, enriching everyone who finally learned to listen. Her rare personality disorder was, in fact, her greatest gift, not just to herself, but to the entire community that had learned to embrace the extraordinary power of difference. Years turned into decades, and Thandi's reputation spread far beyond the Karoo. Other villages, facing similar challenges of climate change and resource scarcity, sought her counsel. They didn't come for grand speeches or charismatic leadership. They came for her silence, her intense observations, and the unparalleled wisdom gleaned from her unique way of seeing the world. Her drawings, once confined to stones, now adorned large hide maps, guiding communities to hidden springs, fertile pockets of land after unusual rains, or predicting subtle shifts in migratory animal patterns. Dr. Thorne, who had remained a lifelong friend and occasional visitor, chronicled her story, sharing it with the wider world. Thandi became a symbol, not just of neurodiversity, but of the profound strength found in embracing every individual's unique way of being. Her original disorder was now celebrated as Thandi's sight, a way of perceiving the world with such intricate detail and holistic understanding that it bordered on the prophetic. This Xhosa village, once cautious of her differences, thrived. They built a small, quiet dwelling for Thandi on a hill overlooking the river she had saved, a place where she could observe the vast landscape undisturbed. Young children, no longer whispering in suspicion, would leave small, carefully arranged pebbles or colorful wildflowers at her doorstep, offerings of respect and affection. They learned from a young age that true strength lay not in conformity, but in the rich tapestry woven by diverse minds. One scorching afternoon, as an elderly Thandi sat under the ancient baobab tree, her hands still sketching on a smooth piece of slate, a young girl approached her. The girl, with eyes as deep and quiet as Thandi's had once been, held out a drawing of her own, a remarkably detailed depiction of a rare desert beetle. Thandi looked at the drawing, then at the girl, and for the first time in many years, a full, warm smile graced her lips. It was a smile that spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of a shared spirit, a new generation ready to see the world with Thandi's sight. The legacy of Thandi wasn't just in the water she found, or the paths she mapped, but in the profound shift she initiated in the hearts and minds of her people. They had learned that the most precious gifts often come wrapped in unfamiliar packages, and that true belonging isn't about fitting in, but about being seen, valued, and loved for exactly who you are. The Karoo, with its vast open skies, had nurtured a soul whose quiet intensity illuminated the world, proving that a rare personality disorder was simply a rare and extraordinary gift waiting to be understood. Her life was a testament to the fact that the human spirit, in all its diverse forms, holds endless capacities for wisdom, connection, and the deepest kind of belonging.